So this is the beginning of a travelogue I was asked to do. I am in a suburb of Buenos Aires, and we are teaching on biblical worldview and how that applies to the world of business as mission. It obviously, one flows into the other. And I'm going to show you a quick sweep of the neighborhood. I'll be commenting along the way. So far, I'm the best translator there is, so this will be an interesting day. But looking forward to it, and I know that God will bless it as He always does. So we are in the first half of our class together, and I'm going to show you a little bit of the group here in Malvinas. Malvinas is a suburb of Buenos Aires, and this group is hungry and excited and absolutely having a marvelous time learning about the biblical worldview, the role of business as mission within it, which is really fascinating for us in the world of business as mission, because we tend to think of it as separate from the way we view the world, and yet the root of business as mission simply comes from a biblical view of the world, of how God sees it, where all things are created for Him and by Him and held together through Him. This is such a Christian and evangelical concept. It's amazing to think the church has not walked in it before. And so let's get back to our roots. Do we see life the way God sees it? Do we see the world the way God sees it? In Spanish, I love it. The word is cosmovisión, which means your vision of the cosmos, your vision of all of creation, including space and all of the pieces that are beyond our world. And so as we think about this together, let's ask ourselves, is my business's mission thinking, behavior, ministry, strategy? Is it really based in Scripture, or is it pragmatic? Are we looking at it from the perspective of it fits into God's plan, God's view, God's purposes for all of creation to honor Him and to cause the flourishing of all created beings, especially mankind, His highest and greatest creation? Good morning. Buenos dias. This is my new friend, Rodney LaSalvia, from originally Venezuela.
From Venezuela originally, yep.
He is going to be helping me teach the course down here in, let me get this a little further out here, look, down here in Buenos Aires. And he said, I'm your interpreter. And I said, no, you are my co-teacher, because God speaks through us. We're only interpreting His Word.
Amen.
So I'm an interpreter, he's an interpreter. His English and Spanish are better than mine. But I wanted you to meet him. We'll get some more thoughts from him later on in the day. But he and his wife are both here, delightful people. Their son, for those of you in the United States, in Estados Unidos, their son is graduating from Columbia International University next month in May. So congratulations in advance to him.
Thank you.
So glad to be working with you, brother.
Thank you, brother. It's I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be working with you.
Fantastic. We'll have a great time. So this is the next installment in my Argentina travelogue. I am in Mendoza, a beautiful, beautiful city. I was in Buenos Aires, a couple of suburbs of Buenos Aires, for a few days, teaching on business as mission and finding people very, very interested and excited about the idea that their jobs, their day-to-day life could actually make a difference for Christ in the world. And they began to capture the ugliness of the Sacred-Secular Dichotomy and what happens when people begin to look and see that there are only a few people who are able to serve Christ and the rest of us just pay them. And as they began to realize this, you could see their faces lighting up. Their questions were fantastic. They had a pretty healthy criticism of the organized church. They weren't bitter. They weren't ugly about it, as we like to say in the United States. They weren't mean, but the truth is they were seeing things as they are, and they were willing to call it out, and they were willing to think about things differently. And I want to challenge you guys, either listeners or viewers or both, to do the same thing. Really ask yourself, is the system, and I put that in air quotes, is the system, the religious system, is it still prevailing with its two-path concept? One path is if you love God and you love business, you choose business and you pay for the work of God. The other is if you love God and you love business, you leave business and you go into the ministry. again, nothing wrong with that. I think you guys know me well enough by now that I'm not anti-ministry, I'm not anti-pastor, anti-missionary at all. I'm simply saying there's a lot more room on the playing field for the rest of us. And so this new concept, that's why we named our company Third Path, is to say there's a third option, there's another way to do this. It does not have to be that we are only either a minister or a business person, but we can actually minister in business. And as one person said, you mean to tell me that my business is my ministry? Well, that lady got it. So then I traveled out to Mendoza, beautiful, beautiful city in the western part of the country. In fact, just a few miles from me in the distance, you can see the Andes Mountains. And on the other side of the Andes is Chile. That's a country I've never been to before, but I suspect I'm going to find it to be very much like the rest of the Latin world, with their heavy Catholic history and the influence that came with it. Doesn't mean that they're all devout Catholics. It doesn't mean and by the way, it doesn't mean everything Catholics do is wrong. It's just a lot of the tradition, a lot of the way of viewing life, the separation of the laity from the clergy, even down to the clothing they wear. It was not meant to be that way. But yet that influence is pervasive, and frankly it's restrictive. Over and over I use the analogy about watching a football game, and they love to hear me talk about real football as their football, not American football. And that there's 22 men on the field in desperate need of rest, and 80,000 people in the stadium in desperate need of exercise. Well, get out of the stadium and get on the field, play the game. And that Jesus is inviting us. He is personally, excitingly invited us to come down on the field, not the mission field, but just come on the field, play the game, get involved in what he's doing. And so when I began to share that, they would really enjoy. They would laugh at the stories. They would laugh at the silly gringo poking fun at himself. But they really did like the idea that what we're talking about here is not it's not new. It really goes back to the very beginning. We spent a lot of time just last night talking about the people in Scripture that God uses in great ways, and many of them. If you look at the list from Adam to Noah to Abraham to Joseph and Daniel and David, and so many of the people that God used for His glory and to transform the world in their day, they were not in traditional ministry. They were kings and business people. They were political advisors, a lot of different things, but they weren't in ministry. They weren't priests. Now, priests were used, but the point is they weren't the only ones used. And that seems to be a prevailing message here for this trip. And God keeps bringing that up again and again and again, that what we're looking at is just getting people in the game. They want to be. I would see hands raised. I would see faces light up. They want to be in the game. People all over the world want to be in the game of serving with Jesus, not serving Jesus like doing things for Him, but doing things with Him. And I always hear my friend Bill Job say, there's a difference between doing business for God and doing business with God. Well, the same thing is true of everything. If I'm viewing life as I'm doing these things for God, that's a tough road. It's like Jesus is back in the back office and He's sending me out to do things and then come back and report on what I've done. That's a pretty lonely path, and it's not much joy in it. But that's not what's happening. Jesus is not saying, hey, you go change the world. He says, I'm changing the world, and come do it with me. Let's have some fun. Let's enjoy this together. I always remember when I think about this, when my dad and I would work on the car. I would be, 4 or 5 years old. About how much help a 4 or 5 year old is when it comes to helping Dad work on the car. No help at all. But the truth is, Dad simply wanted me to do it with him. He wanted me to be with him. I wasn't much help. I might pick up a tool here or there, and every now and then I might get the right tool. But it wasn't that I was, bringing a lot of value. He just wanted me there because I'm His son. And the same thing is true with God. Jesus is simply saying to us, hey, I'm doing this. I'm going to fix the car. I'm going to fix the world. I'm going to redeem society. I'm going to transform the nations. I'm doing it. Why don't you come do it with me? I'd like to have you do it with me. It'd be a blast. And I think that if we could just stop seeing Jesus as this harsh taskmaster who is sending us out to do the impossible, and telling us how much we stink, and we really need to go out there and just do it because we owe it to him, and instead start seeing it as this person who loves us and enjoys us, saying, hey guys, come on, let's do it. This is what I'm doing. Come do it with me. And that's so much of what he did with the disciples when he was walking the earth. And I think his heart is exactly the same today. Well, again, I started using this sort of story, and the people here were lighting up about it. They were laughing because they could think of their own dads, but they were also laughing because they could feel the love and the fun, kind of the humor, if you will, certainly the excitement of Jesus to say, hey, do it with me, come on, join me, be a part of this. And so that to me was really just a wonderful, wonderful first night, wonderful conversations I had in Buenos Aires about the same thing. Tonight, we'll go back and teach again on, this time we'll pick up the intentionality of business and the relationships that we get through business, and finally the absolute need of being able to operate with excellence for the glory of God. So stay tuned. I'll come back with some more thoughts later on today. So this is my Argentinian office. This is Mendoza, and as you can see, I am suffering for Jesus here. As fall arrives, the weather's perfect, about 70 degrees, still plenty of green plants, and this beautiful little courtyard, this wonderful guest house in the middle of the commercial center of Mendoza. If you're ever here, I highly recommend it. It is called the House of Love, Casa de Amo, and it's just a beautiful place. The rooms are nice. The people who own it and manage it are delightful and helpful. And yeah, I just highly recommend it. I want to share something that I took a twist on in teaching last night about the 4 principles of business's mission. And they go back with me to the very beginning when somebody first asked me, what is BAM? And I said, well, it's vocational, meaning it's a calling. It's intentional, meaning that it's directly connected to what God is doing in the world, deliberately connected. It is relational, meaning that God entrusts us with relationships that we only get in the world of business, but also it's operational, meaning it matters how we run our business. It's meant to be run in an excellent manner, a reflection of the word avodah, work, worship, and service, all in the same word. But as I was teaching it last night, I turned it around and put the form of these principles, I put these principles in the form of a question, each one, and I found it just to be a much more positive and intriguing way to think about it. So here's the first question. It's about vocation, but the question is this: what if, instead of a less than, a substandard way to spend our life, what if it wasn't just about making money and providing for our needs? What if we did it? What if it was a call? Would it change the way we viewed it? What if business was a divine call that was unique for us, perfect for us, based on our gifts and our talents, given to us by the Holy Spirit perfectly? If you read 1 Corinthians 12 lately, what if that were true? What if God has gifted me for business? What if God has called me to business? What if that were true? And I shared that, and people just lit up thinking about it that way. Second question. So what if we weren't just trying to do good in our business? We weren't just trying to be honest and ethical and run business in a so-called Christian way. If you're listening to this, you can't see the air quotes. But that's so much of what marketplace ministry has been about. How to be more ethical and how to be more honest and how to be more compassionate in business, all of which is good. But what if instead it was a way to connect and be involved in what God was doing all over the world? God's heart is to reach the unreached. It is to reach the people who do not know Christ, to bring them into a living relationship with Him, and to see them discipled, to see their lives transformed, by the renewing of their minds as they learn and choose to walk in the ways of Christ. Well, what if business was a way to do that? What if business was meant to be deliberately, prayerfully, specifically connected to what God is doing in the world and his work of restoring all things affected by the fall? Wow. Again, it's the same words, but asked in a different way. It really sort of changes the meaning and the feeling of the whole thing. Thirdly, we talk about it being relational. But what if business was a place where God had specifically chosen to give me relationships, to put people into my life, to put people into my sphere of influence, employees, customers, competitors, vendors, suppliers, bankers? What if that was God's mechanism for putting me in contact with those who either don't know him or need to learn to know him better? You know, they often don't come to church, and in most parts of the world, very few people in the community and the population attend church anymore. Most of the church growth that we see is frankly people moving from one church to another, but the general public is still being relatively untouched by the message of God's grace and love. So what if business was one of the places that God has chosen from the very beginning to put people into my life to influence them for Jesus Christ? Wow. Again, I love the question. And then finally, instead of saying our work must be excellent, our businesses must be run in an excellent way, that almost sounds a little bit authoritarian. What if instead the question was, what if my business, what if my career was the place to demonstrate the meaning of the word avodah, that wonderful Hebrew word where Hebrew brings three meanings to one word all at the same time: work, service, and worship. So what if work was an opportunity to worship the living God? What if it was a way to praise him, to honor him? What if we viewed it that way? I think it would change everything about how we do it and why we do it. So just some thoughts. As I'm teaching in South America, I'm really enjoying the sense of liberty and the sense of not new ideas, but new ways of expressing old ideas. So I hope this helps you. So I'm home. If you've been listening to this travelogue as a part of the blog series online, the podcast and so forth, you know that I've been in Argentina teaching business as mission through a group known as the Instituto de Transforma, Institute for Transformation. And it was an absolutely fantastic trip, great news, but it got cut short. I was supposed to do 3 cities, 4 churches, and ended up doing 2 cities, 3 churches. So it ended a little more abruptly than I had anticipated. It certainly wasn't planned this way by anyone, but something happened in the last church. They simply could not make it, and so we decided I'd come on home. And I'm glad to be home. I have to say, I'm always happy to be home. I love my home. I love my family. Traveling is not hard. It's not easy at my age, but it's not hard, except for being away from home. So I'm glad to be back. I'm very happy to be back. And so that's good news. But I could have stayed longer, personally. I have to say I've never been to Argentina before. I've been to South America many times, and I really like it. I mean, it's just there's a vibrancy there. They're transitioning politically, so to speak, from sort of 20 years or more or less of socialist type leading government, and now they have Milei, who is very much the libertarian. He's not even a conservative; he's a libertarian, meaning not no government, but much less government. And it's really making a positive, powerful difference in the country, but it's got a lot of people very divided. It reminds me, for those of you who are in my audience who are Americans, you can kind of look at our country now and see the same sort of division as we go from a more or less socialist mindset of democratic rule to a more libertarian Republican leadership, and the country is split, similar to what we see in Argentina. So, but I could have stayed longer because the church there was so engaging, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. But I do want to say thank you to the Institute for Transformation for sponsoring me this trip, for Rodrigo Tapia, the leader of the Institute, for allowing me to be a part of it, and to Pastor Hugo from the church, one of the churches in Buenos Aires, and Pastor Christian, the church leader in Mendoza, for hosting me. So much fun. So totally enjoyed it, and I'm glad to be back. So what were my observations coming away from this trip? You've kind of gotten my walk around, man on the street, crazy man talking to himself videos that I did just as the moments popped up, and I hope they were helpful, encouraging, entertaining, instructive, whatever. I certainly enjoyed doing them. But I want to wrap out now with 5 just sort of observations on the trip, but particularly as it pertains to what God seems to be doing among the Argentinian Christians. So the first observation is, and this is not new, but it's great to see it now in a new country, that the BAM message resonates with believers. So far, in every country that I've taught in, and I'm sure some of my colleagues like Mats Tunahag and others would say absolutely, it resonates. And the part that seemed to resonate the most is the idea that business is a high calling from God. The pastors were supportive of the idea. They were not resistant. They were not trying to play the I'm the pastor card. They want their congregations to be engaged in what God is doing. And so they began to see that the honoring of the call of God on a business person, and that doesn't have to be an entrepreneur, that could be an employee, a manager, but the call of God on people who are in the work world, in the marketplace, as high and holy, really was powerfully accepted. Many people came to me during breaks, or they came to me the next day after having heard it the night before, and they wanted to make sure that I understood how moved they were, how encouraged they were by that reality, that they were no longer being thought of as just, I work so I could pay for ministry. My work is my ministry. And thankfully, because of a couple of resources coming out recently, my book is available in Spanish, Business is Mission, but also a couple of recent books by Cara Martin out of Australia, the Work with a K, Workship series are available not only in Spanish, but they're being marketed on the South American continent. So I'm really excited about that. And they were hungry to learn more. They heard, one woman put it particularly, she said, God was speaking to me. God was affirming my worth, my call, my value. And that to me is just so critical. And I would encourage all of us, not to, in the world of business as mission, not to be so pragmatic that we jump right into the intentionality, right into the ethics and the mission focus and the excellence focus and all the things that are right in the model, but also that we would stop and really lay the groundwork for people that we are discipling in the world of business as a calling, to see that this is vocational, that God calls men and women into work, and with that comes a great honor, comes a great empowering, and a great joy and confidence. So that was the first observation, that the message of vocational calling to work, calling to business rings true literally everywhere I go, and I'm so thankful for that. Secondly, one of the things that came to me one day while I was there is I had this tendency to sort of, those of you who know me, no surprise here, I have this tendency to preach. I have this tendency to tell. And so I always talk about the 4 aspects of business as mission, that it is vocational, that it is intentional, that it is relational, and that it's operational. And then I unpack those and explain them. And of course, the outline is still valid, but it came to me that maybe I should ask this in the form of a question. So I thought I'd try that one night with the group in Mendoza. And so I rephrased these 4 points from statements to questions, and that's it. Let's play with the what if concept. What if instead of being a necessary evil, or what if being something where you had to make money to survive, or what if you had to work in order to support the local church? What if work and business were actually callings from God? That God was as pleased by putting you into the world of work as he would be putting somebody else into the world of the church as a pastor, or a missionary, or a nurse at a hospital. What if he viewed it all the same? And you could see immediately That's part of why people were embracing it, because they were able to see it and feel it in a very positive, but not a preachy sort of way. What if work was not just something you did because you had to do it? What if it could be intentionally connected to what God is doing? What if your job was a part of what God is doing in the world as He reaches out to transform society, to make disciples of all nations, as He reaches out to impact the poor, impact the community, create jobs, create sustainability, and ultimately be the platform and the means by which we engage the world and share the gospel with them and bring them to not just salvation, but bring them to an obedient discipleship to Jesus Christ. And again, the groups were just very, very responsive to that message, but also to the way that I repositioned it. What if the people that you come across in work, what if they were no longer just a nuisance? What if you didn't just have coworkers or employees or bosses or customers? What if they were all placed into your life through work, through business, for you to minister to them? What if they were there for you to love? And the last point, of course, being operational, is like, what if the excellence of your work was actually a form of worship? And that leads us to the now very, very common word, which wasn't common a couple of years ago, the word avodah. And we had a lot of fun with that. What if the concept of avodah, work, that business is work, service, and worship, all at the same time, not at different times, but much like the Trinity, one God, three persons, all at the same time. Father, Son, and Spirit are not existing at different points in time. There are Father, Son, and Spirit always, one God. What if work and worship and service was always what we're doing? That's what we're involved in around the world in our day-to-day life. And again, it changes the flavor of the conversation. So that was a second observation. You think I would have learned this a long time ago, but for those of you who have read about Socratic method, the teaching by asking questions, you know also that it's a lot harder than it sounds. Preaching, teaching, didactic, declarations, much, much easier. Probably much less effective. And so, I'm a little late to the game, but I'm still teachable. Third thing, after studying Spanish for the last 15 years, I've studied Spanish every single day for 15 years, and it still stinks. My opening line, I could do more. In fact, one pastor thought I was there to teach in Spanish. He had not been told that I needed an interpreter, so he didn't have one. So he said, "Of course, you'll teach in Spanish." My opening line in every Spanish conversation is, "Mi español es muy pequeño," meaning very little, or is muy poco. Poco is very, very, very small, or muy mal is very bad. And they would laugh and smile, and then they would realize he's telling the truth. And so I just realized again, after all these years, I still can't speak Spanish very well. Truthfully, I think about quitting all the time, but I'm not a quitter, so I'll keep learning, and God keeps giving me opportunity to practice it. Fourth thing, and this was interesting, is that the evangelical church in Argentina in particular, but I've seen this around South America as a whole, the evangelical churches, plural, are very small. I mean, 30, 40, 50 people. 50 people would be big. Many of the churches were 15 or 20 people, but there are lots of them. And they're not divided. It's not like this little group over here hates this little group over there. It is that they just don't have any resources. So as a result of that, they're kind of house churches. Most of them have outgrown home meetings, or there's nobody wealthy enough to have a large enough home to house them. So they'll meet in an old building, or a little office building, or a little storefront, or whatever. But the cool thing about it was, everywhere you turn, there was a little evangelical church. And these were not just little cult-like churches. These were powerful, committed, passionate churches that loved to worship. I think the biggest church that I was a part of is the one I preached at last Saturday night. And boy, this is after teaching for 8 hours, traveling again, and then preaching that night for about an hour. And then dinner. That's the other thing in the Hispanic culture, the Latin culture. Dinner's later, and they're honoring you by having you stay for dinner after you preach. So it would be typically 11, 12 o'clock at night before I would be done. But that was maybe the largest church I've been to. And I think maybe there were 45 people there. Great people, excited people, energized people, prayerful people. So I was able to speak to them on the Great Commission. And again, this idea of business as mission, the ministry aspect of being in business, resonates so powerfully. And the last thing that I saw, and I've seen this again, I saw it in Colombia last year. I've seen it in Brazil multiple times as I've been there. There is this hunger and passion for transformation, not just for winning people to Christ in the sort of fundamentalist sense of pray the prayer and you're in, but really seeing people, not only individuals, but individuals and families and communities and ultimately nations transformed by the gospel, transformed by the message of Jesus Christ, his death, burial, and resurrection, transformed by the truth that he is Lord of all and he is with us always. So there was this amazing just hunger to see their land, their people, their nation brought in alignment with the will of God and the Word of God. And I just don't see that in a lot of places. In the West, particularly in Europe and North America, I just don't see this hunger for transformation that I see in Latin America, for example, or other places around the world. So that was sort of my fifth takeaway. Those of you who've been following this, I hope you've enjoyed it. It was certainly, I enjoyed it. It was a great experience for me and a different way of looking at what God is doing around the world. So thanks for listening. And if you are so moved, I would encourage you to follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can go to buymeacupofcoffee.com. If you would like to tell a friend about it, we would definitely appreciate it. We're just trying to get the word out, and we've got a lot of listeners around the world. We'd like to have a lot more as we have guests on, or sometimes I step in and tell a bit of my story or whatever's on my mind about once a month. So every week now, every Monday, please check for the latest episode of the Business as Mission podcast. Thanks so much for being a listener.